Okay, guys, welcome to our instructional. So the first part that we are going to start off with is our essentials for the curriculum that we're going to go ahead and show you guys today. So the very first part is we're going to start with a few concepts and principles that you need to attain by while you're playing into these positions. So the first one we're going to look at is the default position. So this is just a scratch of many things to come. Okay, it's just the building foundation. It's kind of what we call, default. So while I'm in this default position, a couple things that I want to happen. Number one, I need my toes live and active into the floor. If they are not, okay, I don't have any posts or any way like a structure to keep myself pinned here. So if he goes and starts to extend his legs, okay, the chances of him pushing my legs back become greater. Rather, if I have my toes in the floor and they're live, okay, now I have a great deal of resistance against this push. Not only that, but I'm sinking my hips back. I don't want my hips going over my knees like so. So I'm pulling my hips back. I'm sitting on my toes. I'm sagging backwards. My elbows are going to be pinching down into its hips here, almost as if I'm taking my elbows onto my knees. That is the principle I want you thinking about, is how close can you get your elbows to your knees from this position here. And our hands are going to stay inside of his elbows, his rib cage, for inside positioning from here, okay? Our head, we're just not going to be off doing anything with it. Typically, our head's going to be resting in the middle, so we have inside position on his torso. And from here, we will be setting up other principles and concepts. But when you guys get into default, make sure that you're sagging down, your elbows are pinching to your knees, and you're having a very solid base. Okay, guys, so for the next part, now we're going to dive in a little bit deeper on the sagging concept. So from the default position, we are going to talk about the importance of sagging when we're being lifted up and elevated. So as I'm in this default position, Jeremy's going to just take these double under grips here. He's going to load my hips and he's going to extend me up to butterfly. As we get here, a couple things that I want to note. Number one, when I do get here, I want my hips settled back. So I'm going to pull my hips back, okay, all the way down to my heels, just like so. When I go to do that, my elbows are also going to be pulling downward. When I pull my elbows down, there becomes a lot of pressure to Jeremy's forearms, which also are on top of his quads. So if Jeremy goes to pull his knees out of this pocket, he's going to find it very difficult to do so, okay? So I'm sagging my weight down, okay? Not just with my hips, but with my armpits and my elbows. I'm sagging downward, okay? My head should remain up in the middle of his torso for inside positioning, okay? So let's kind of look at this again. So it's very sudden. You can't see it well in a video, but trust that my hips are sitting heavy down to my heels, and I'm taking my elbows and I'm pinching them on the top side of Jeremy's quads. So as I'm in default, he loads me and extends me, and immediately I start to get heavy, okay? Sagging down, head up for inside space. And that right there is going to help not get you elevated. Okay, guys, so now we're getting into another essential. This one is really critical. So now we're going to be dealing with learning how to pummel in, okay? Now, note, I do want to say this. It is very difficult to pummel in against a skillful guy twice with two arms. So when we do this, the concept would be to at least try to get one arm in, and you should. Two, maybe not be as realistic. So we're in default. As I get into my default, he goes to extend, and as before in our other essential, I start to sag. Once I go to sag, what I want to endure here is making sure that I have my partner in what we call a sweet spot, okay? When I start to just ever so slightly drive into Jeremy here, he is now off at an angle to where we call the sweet spot, which makes his legs really inefficient in this position here. Rather, if he was up here, he could really start using the extension of his legs. But since we're in this sweet spot, when he's sagging, he is very weak in the torso. When we get here, we're going to abide by the fact that we need to start pummeling for inside space. So when we go for inside space, I actually want to take my pinky up and shoot my elbow in. We're not going to have our hand laying like this. I actually want to turn it down. So as I'm sagging, all I'm going to worry about doing is taking my head away from the side that I'm going to be pummeling from. I'm going to take my pinky, okay, and I'm going to shove it inside. The reason why this is happening is because if Jeremy has a good job about closing his elbow to his rib cage, and I try to go here, thumb up, there's not enough room or leverage where I can get my whole entire hand in. But when I go pinky down, I can just shoot my arm in now. But as I go to do this, we're not wanting to be shallow. The crease of my elbow for my left elbow needs to be touching his hip. I need to delete all that space. The only way that works is when I go to shoot in, I'm going to take my head off that center line over here, okay? So that my left arm reaches far and deep, okay? There's no space between my forearm, elbow, and his hips, okay? This is super important. My head is never going to be here, okay? Because now I'm just going to be risking guillotines if he breaks my posture. So I need my head up here. Now I can worry about resetting my training partner. And as we get further along, we don't necessarily always have to reset our training partner. There will come times to where we would just want him in a sweet spot, and then we can set up body lock passing and things of that nature. So again, he sets me up, I pummel, and I reset my training partner back into the same essentials and default. Okay, guys, so something that we're going to be getting into next is the importance of troubleshooting the Sumigachi sweep, which is a horizontal sweep. As we go through with this, you can see that we're playing a lot in a butterfly guard, and the Sumigachi sweep is naturally going to happen when your training partner gains access to an overhook from the butterfly position. So let's take a look from it. So we get into our default position. He goes to extend me up from here. And as this occurs, I'm sagging, I'm going to pummel. And as I get here, he goes to post and drops his inside knee down to set up the Sumigachi sweep. As soon as this occurs for me, I want to make sure that I do a couple things. Number one, I'm going to hook and grab around, just like so, okay? When I go to do this, I'm going to also post my leg out. Remember, I mentioned that this was a horizontal sweep, so he's trying to take me into this direction. So as I go to hook to prevent his knee from going to the floor, I post to prevent my weight from going that way, but also the reason why I post is because I'm bringing all that pressure that's in my right foot right here, and I'm going to slide it into my left knee. We call this resetting the knee, okay? It's going to reset my weight there. Okay, as that happens, I'm going to bring his knee up into him as I go and reset him back down into our default position. And even more importantly, once we reset him, I have an arm under, and now I'm ready for more excellent passing.